Ryan, you're a huge Star Wars fan.
Some days.
You love you love the Star Wars that you love.
Yeah.
Um, Tomorrow on Disney Plus, we get more Star Wars.
Yes.
We get Andor, the 12
Yes.
episode
Uh-huh.
series
Yes.
featuring Cassian Andor from Rogue One. If you enjoyed Rogue One, the film. And they're going to release the first 3 episodes tomorrow. And then they'll be weekly after that. Diego Luna is Cassian Andor. Genevieve O'Reilly is Mon Mothma. We get the Skarsgård in this. Man, okay. So if you like the world of Rogue One, let's start there. We saw the first 4 episodes.
Yeah. And I think it's funny because I think that fourth episode is pretty important.
Right. It actually really is. Which I see social media there, they talk about all these high profile shows, and it's the hate industry, which I've commented on before, but they do make a lot of, again, they occasionally, the blind squirrel finds a nut. When they're like, a lot of these reviews are like, yeah, and it's setting up this next thing, and it's setting up this next thing. So once you get to this point, it's probably going to be good. And it's like, well, they're not wrong on a lot of series. I mean, and I've commented on it, how Disney Plus, especially with Marvel, tends to backload their series. So people are slogging through chunks of seasons, and then eventually it will come back to bite them. People will just not want to slog through the garbage to get to the stuff that's important. I didn't feel that way about Andor.
No. It's
now you may argue their world building, and it's not going fast enough for you.
No,
but I don't think it's not dragging. I don't think it's backloaded. I think it's deliberate.
No, for me, they drop you into a world, and remember, this is a prequel because Rogue One doesn't exactly end well for a lot of people. Anyway,
no.
So it drops you into a world that is vaguely familiar, not necessarily the most Star Warsy of films, but I think what's interesting is we're kind of the films all were very Jedi focused for the most part, except for Rogue One.
Yep.
And so it's easy to kind of forget that, the original trilogy, there literally were no Jedi out there. There was Luke, and there was a little green guy hiding on a little island, and but it wasn't like an organization, and it wasn't like there were lots of Jedi running around doing a lot of things. And we're at the edge of that era where they're really, Jedi have kind of, if they ever had an influence on these far reaches of the galaxy, they don't any longer. So they don't really ever talk about any of that stuff. It's more about, it's political in a way, and you have, but not in the sense that you have a lot of meetings and policy. And,
right. Well, yeah. We'll get to that. No, it's
although that factors in.
Yeah, it does happen, which I love that part. But just
the most honest
for reasons. There were reasons that I love that part, and we'll get to that.
Sure.
But Andor, he lives on like this mining planet, but he doesn't mine. He's a what's a nice way to put it? He's an entrepreneur.
Snake oil
he's a hustler. He's always trying to make a buck. To get ahead, to get him and Caller, his mother. Really, this is post Solo.
Yeah.
If you were a fan of Solo, which I still think is unfairly maligned. It's not a masterpiece, but anyway. So it's post Solo, and they actually mention a thing at one point, and pre Rogue One. obviously. But so it's the Empire has really got its grip on all these worlds. They've been put down, and you're seeing those seeds of resistance that were planted at the end of Solo. They're mentioned more here across these episodes because people don't like being told what to do. And so we see that, and we get to watch Cassian get exposed to that aspect of the world in which he finds himself. He likes to take shots at the Empire, but on these little, again, kind of little side hustles, not anything big.
No, I wouldn't say. I think I think hustle's the right word, because he's not an activist.
No,
he's not a leader.
No,
nope. He's kind of just a guy who's trying to make his way through the galaxy and really would rather not have to work too hard to get through it.
Yeah, it's weird. I mentioned Solo earlier. It's like, it's almost, if he'd accidentally bumped into Han Solo, he'd have wound up on his crew.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Just because they have the same, because they're both inherently good people.
But but I think Han might fire him because he was too lazy. Or he needed more out of him or something. Anyway, I don't know. Yeah, but no, there's definitely a scoundrel aspect to it, and also, but I think that our history is filled with heroes that aren't nearly as clean cut as they're portrayed, and so uprisings and revolutions are messy.
Yes.
And to suggest anything otherwise is a lie. So I think this is a messier world than maybe we're used to dealing with the Jedi and their whatever.
Let's not forget that at the beginning of Rogue One, one of the first things we see Cassian do is actually kill a friend of his.
Yeah.
In order to get away from stormtroopers.
Yeah.
And I like that there's an echo of that in this, or not an echo, kind of a precursor event. Because even in Rogue One, it doesn't look like he wants to kill people. And at the beginning of this, because he's not a violent person. Again, that's not his thing. He's not a fighter. He's a hustler.
If he has to be, he does what needs to get done, and unfortunately, sometimes.
But again, so we see the kind of like a precursor event, which I thought I was watching. I kept waiting for it, and then finally it happened. I'm like, there it is. That's just the mindset that he has. It's like, well, I have no choice. So he's recruited, and we're moving along, and we're seeing stuff. So we're seeing, like I said, we're seeing this Proto Rebellion, and
which is interesting to me.
Yeah,
I mean, who are these characters? What role did they play? How did they come together? Why did they come together? What were the catalysts? And that's kind of what we're exploring.
Yeah,
and I like that. And I like that. This is not as dark as I think the Boba Fett series that we all wanted, where Boba Fett's just a bounty hunter and goes off and does Boba Fett things in a very dark world. But this is far closer to that than than I think the other things really have been. Mandalorian's definitely a Western, and this isn't necessarily a Western.
This is almost like a really weird
adventure drama sort of serial.
If there was if you did like a noir, late 30s Europe, like Rise of the Nazis or something, and you kind of set a noir thing in that area, you maybe kind of get close.
But there's it doesn't have that mystery. I don't know. But yeah, it is interesting because it isn't easy to define. And maybe that is why it's interesting, is because you can't go, well, it's this.
Yeah.
Because you have to say, well, it is that, and then this and this and this and this, and well, there's elements of this and there. So,
Well, there are elements of this and this and this, but that's called
yes.
life.
Yeah. Well, yes, exactly.
So, so that makes it real. I mean, this is closer to the Mandalorian than Boba Fett or Kenobi.
Yeah. Well, yes.
In feel.
But it also, it's. I mean, it's. In Mandalorian, you still have the presence of the Force.
Yeah.
This is. I don't even think they've really brought it up at all.
No, they haven't, because really the only people are right now at this point, with the exception of any hidden Jedi, it's Vader.
Yeah.
That's but he doesn't run around yelling Jedi, Jedi, Jedi. He just runs around
killing Jedi.
Killing Jedi. Well, he has people for that, but
yeah, that too.
But he runs around force choking people and blowing up planets.
Yeah.
It's kind of his shtick right now. So yeah,
yes,
people understand
and no one's
powers, but it's not
expecting him to swoop in.
Yeah. So it's a different feel. It's in this dead zone of force awareness, I guess, or Jedi awareness. You're right.
So I guess I would say so. The warning is, if the Force was the thing that you love the most about Star Wars, I don't know how much you're going to like this, but
right.
If you were interested in the world that's beyond just the Jedi, then I think there is a lot here for you. It is definitely different than I don't think George Lucas would have written this.
No.
That doesn't necessarily mean he wouldn't approve of it, but I think that his focus was really on the Jedi and all these things and these magical samurai and things. He wasn't really about.
No, he was in the mythology. Yeah, George was very much a mythology guy,
rather than the grittiness of what this is. He liked the big sweeping epics, and this is a little smaller.
Yep.
In scope than that. As much as is at stake a lot of the times, I think, but it's just not presented in there's no Death Star to blow up your planet yet.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing, and like we've only seen 4 of the 12, and so it's really hard to predict where it's going to go exactly, but I think that 4th episode is pretty important to start to get a feel for where it's going to go. But, I don't think at the end of the 3rd episode, you'll feel like, oh, I don't know what's going on. No, you'll know what's going on. You just know that you're building to something and you're not exactly sure. I mean, it's like having pieces of a puzzle without seeing the picture.
Right.
Everything's going to fit together. You have all the parts in front of you. You just don't know how to place some of them, and I think that's interesting. I think it's and I liked Rogue One a lot.
A lot of people did. I did too. I mean, the only downside to this, and I don't want people to think we're gushing to gush on this. The only downside is that, unfortunately, we know there has to be an end to this, because we already know where he ends up. So it's kind of like watching the prequel films, in that we know the end point, but if you're interested in watching how you get there, then you can enjoy it.
Well, and I think they're also doing more detail about the world of the rebellion. So it's not just about him,
right?
I think we know how he ends, but there's also this bigger narrative, about essentially but the rebellion lives on. Yeah. So let's see where this rebellion came from, and figure out the way that stuff built up to where it is in A New Hope. Because that's a building process. It's a process of steps forward, steps back. It's. Rebellions don't really happen overnight.
No, they don't spring up like mushrooms overnight. So let's talk about that. The rebellion is a response to the Empire. And I said, you said there's politics, but we're not in meetings and a lot of stuff. But in a couple spots we are.
We are in meetings, but they're pretty fun.
But it's the intelligence side of the Empire.
Yes.
As they're trying to consolidate control, they have their intelligence networks. And you see that room and all those white uniforms. And for a second, I was like, oh, no. And then I realized what they were doing. And I was like, and you start seeing the key players in that room. And I was like, oh, okay, so now I'm in, because now you know how much I love watching political or military interpersonal relations.
Sure.
I love watching that. And as soon as I realized that that's what we were supposed to be getting out of that scene or those scenes, I was like, oh yeah, okay, let's watch this. In the
well, yeah, and they're already building up tensions between 2 or 3 characters, and then in that 4th episode, they bring in a whole new element of it as well, and so yeah, this is very character-driven stuff, and there are certain characters that I hope they're there for a while because they set them up pretty well and they intrigue me.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's characters that are kind of, well, I think there's a lot of characters that ultimately are going to have to make a choice, and decide what they're buying into.
Yep.
Regardless of what they're buying into in episode 1, is that still what they're going to be buying into in episode 12?
Yeah.
And that, I think, is where it's interesting, because really a lot of the characters you could see going either way, because at this point there's fairly good argument for both sides to a certain extent. Stability and all the things that a tyrannical government does offer that are attractive. Prosperity for some, and there are aspects. I mean, there's a reason why these things happen. It's because it's good for a certain group of people, and the other group doesn't particularly matter. And so, a lot of this has to be people deciding, well, what group am I in? And if whatever group I'm in, am I comfortable, being that person and signing up for one side or the other? I don't know. I think it's intriguing stuff.
Yeah, it really is. So I hope people will not be expecting that this is not a gee whiz bang Star Wars adventure.
It's got a couple moments though.
Yeah, but I mean, in the Foundry or whatever, that was an interesting sequence. I liked that, but again, that was Skarsgård, so I was totally down for that anyway. But yeah, so it's I don't know if it's what people are expecting.
I think if you go in expecting something similar to Rogue One, and that's what you'll get.
Yeah, and that's as good a place to start, I think, as you're going to get. So it is definitely interesting. So that is on Disney Plus starting tomorrow. First 3 episodes, then weekly. 12 episodes in season 1. Greenlit for season 2.
Yes.
I believe is what I heard. So there'll be 12 more episodes. Which is good because now they can make sure that they don't have to rejigger anything at the end of this season.
Well, and
to get us into season 2.
I love the whole idea of it. Actually, as a viewer, it makes me not stress over the details to a certain extent.
Right.
It's like, okay, how's this going to wrap up? It's nice knowing that maybe a story will wrap up at the end of this season and they'll move on to something else. Maybe it won't. But I think there's something comfortable about knowing, that
there's a commitment to the story. Yeah.
It's going to continue on. So they're going to give it the space it needs to breathe, and hopefully they do, right with it. They're shooting this on practical sets. This is actually done in a completely different way than The Mandalorian's being done.
It doesn't feel like it's in the volume.
No, it's so, it's interesting. And I think for Star Wars, that's important at this point.
Yeah. Reality, quote unquote reality, I guess is important in our Star Wars universe. Not that I don't love The Mandalorian in the way they use.
No, I do love. You know, Grogu is my favorite thing in the entire universe.
Except for the name. Except for the name. We got to change that name.
I'm okay with Grogu.
Breakfast cereal. So there is
Grogu breakfast cereal.
I know, they're baby Grogus. Which I
bought them and ate them.
Oh my God. They didn't kill you?
No, and I
just from the preservatives?
I'm such a well, you know what else they had, like Baby Yoda recently, they had Grogu the cheese fish crackers.
Oh God. Goldfish.
So I had to get those. Yeah, I'm like the guy who goes to the grocery store and goes, "Oh, look at that picture on what is it? I don't know, but I happen to have the picture." Oh, okay, it's crackers. Okay, well, I can buy crackers.
I like crackers.
Sure. But look at the picture. I'm that guy. I'm terrible.
You're that guy. You're a terrible guy. That's what that is. You're terrible. So yeah, there you go. That is Andor, again on Disney Plus, starting tomorrow. 3 episodes, 12 episodes in total. That'll be every Wednesday. So for the next few weeks, we're going to have Andor on Wednesdays, She-Hulk on Thursdays, and we'll see how that all shakes out. One of those is going to be clearly better than the other, as we've already talked about both of them at this point. Yeah. You can guess. So there you go. That is that is it for Andor. We've got other movies to talk about. There's more movies coming out. We've got a big release on Netflix coming that we're going to be talking about next. And we're doing FanX this weekend. So pop culture stuff. Yay, pop culture. Ryan is going to be moderating the Stranger Things panel this Saturday if you're in Salt Lake at FanX.
Yeah, come hang out. We're going to get I don't know what we're going to get because we're going to have, we'll probably do some Wake Up Chrissy since Grace is going to be there. We'll maybe do some Never Ending Story with Gaten, and then we're going to probably talk pizza.
Talk pizza with Argyle.
Yeah, maybe because I have to know if he likes pineapple on his pizza in real life or not.
Right? He's probably like, "Oh, I hate pizza."
Yeah, well, he might.
We'll see how it goes.
Ironically, the actor was first seen in a film called Booksmart, so everything was full circle.
There you go. That's true. Yeah.
Anyway,
so there you go.
That's right.
There you go.
Right.
So that's it. Don't forget to like us, follow us on social media at VS Movie Podcast. You know the drill. Till we talk to you again, I'm Mark. That's Ryan. Bye, Ryan.
See you guys.
Stay safe. Be good. Go see a movie. There's plenty of good ones out there. And we will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.